This is a fairly bog standard session on sampling, in that most of what you need to cover is included, and it can be quite a boring didactic session because there's a lot to go through, probability, non-probability, all that sort of stuff. So what I tend to do is I begin it by talking about actual what is sampling and talking about the sample frame. Use a few bits of graphics on the board quite often. I'll draw like a big square or whatever for a sample frame, talking about the census being everybody, and then make a smaller group within it and go through it with these sorts of ideas. The key bit that I try and get through to the students, this is about representativeness and the importance of it. And what I'm always trying to explain to them is the differences between groups of people, how everybody may seem to be similar on the surface, but then when you actually look at them more closely, you find that they have different aspects, whether that's gender, whether that's occupation, whether that's political affiliation, depending on whatever it is that you're trying to research, that will have different importance. So sports students, it might be height, weight, the number of times they train, their sporting ability, whereas social science students, as I say, it might be more likely to be gender, occupation, age, and those types of examples. The way that I very often get around this is I bring in with me a bag of oranges into the classroom, and we talk about it, and we start off looking at the oranges and just sort of identifying that they are just oranges. But when you begin to look at them more closely, you can see there are different sizes. Some of them have green bits on, some of them, different shapes, that sort of thing, and that you can go from that looking similar to being quite different. And then I carry on and use those later on when we get into the samples. This is just a little game, just using the description and the title to match up, and it's just a way of breaking up this what is quite a boring session and can be quite a long session with a little activity. So that just goes through. As I say, this stuff is all the usual stuff that you'd be linked with, and then when it actually comes to talking about the different types of sampling, I would use my bag of oranges to demonstrate how that might be done. So I might put them back in a bag and draw them out to do random sampling, and again it's fairly graphic and can put that through, and of course everybody gets an orange to eat at the end of the session. The more difficult part of the session is about sampling size, and particularly standard error and confidence levels. The basic information is in there, and I think you need to think about your students about how much you go through it, whether or not they get it all in one go, whether or not you need to use a different session to actually work that one through.